Well, that was a great place to leave off on that last panel for sustainability and real estate. And certainly that's part of the mission here at Carat. And so I appreciate you, everybody, coming and taking the time and staying a little bit late before dinner. But I hope I'll make this interesting and we can all go enjoy ourselves. But as Marty said, I'm a managing partner with Carat Venture Partners. This is a multi-stage venture firm, which is quite unique, as you'll see, in terms of some of the strategic partners we bring to bear and some of the team members that we bring to bear in terms of getting it done and really making some of these business strategies, which I've lived with for many years as a participant in the corporate venture incubator called One Traction at Stanford, and getting the premise and recognizing the issues to help these emerging tech companies, particularly ones doing some things in sustainability, which have a little bit more equipment, is no easy task. And but it's critical in nature because there's a big transition, as we know. It's a massive $10 trillion spend coming up, and I think that what Carat's put together, and at least what I see in Carat, is a team that can really actually deliver a strong hand in operational execution, and one in which brings the depth of corporate venture partners, one kind of a world-class environment. So with that said, let me introduce the team and dig a little bit deeper. We're a fund, so there's our disclaimer, of course. So as an introduction, as I mentioned, we're doing sustainable tech. We're doing deep tech in all the fields of deep tech that go into both smart cities and sustainability, and in particular that are anchored in energy. And this team's really led by somebody who's pretty special, Klaus Kleinfeld. He was CEO of Siemens and Alcoa, as well as he runs the largest sustainable building effort now in the world called the NEOM project. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if you could Google it, you can see it's a $1 trillion project over, I guess slated to be done in 2050, but it's about 75 miles long, so it's quite a bit to bite off. But with that said, if you look at the core team at Carat, it's a pretty deep bench. You'll see a lot of operational expertise, which is above and beyond the normal. Whether you look at different venture firms, the tier ones, Kleiner Perkins, and down the line, you wouldn't see this type of caliber in that context. You'd see a lot of investor people, but you wouldn't see a lot of operating people at this level. So with that in mind, the mission is not just to bring operations, but to bring some of the corporate venture capital partners that this group has at its fingertips to bear in all of our projects. So some of them that are obvious, like Siemens, which is obviously Klaus's company, but throughout the ecosystem, whether it's J&J, BMW, Volkswagen, or Mercedes at all, they're really just a phone call away for us in this group. And so this is a $350 million fund, and it's already backed and anchored by some of the largest CVCs in the world and some of the largest family offices in the world. And so with that said, I can dig a little bit deeper, but before I leave the screen, I'll give you a little bit of my history and why I came on board with Carat was I started out as an internet analyst in the days of building the internet infrastructure. I covered Cisco and Juniper networks when the infrastructure was really not built. And basically, like most of us investing the past 20 plus years, mine's 35 years, we've really gone from infrastructure up into the cloud, right? Everybody, we had a nice time when we were up in the app world for a little while, right? And there was no, commitment to any equipment. And now we're coming down out of the clouds, as many might say, and we're really adding equipment again to our equation. And then with the transition to sustainable energy and sustainability in general, whether it's recycling, plastics at all, you're going back into a phase of equipment. And I can see the Carat team and the Carat scale, because I expect this to be a fund that reaches more towards $1 billion when it's fully closed. really has that expertise at that deep tech level and have the ability to deliver value, but even more so deliver liquidity, right? Because you can get stuck in deep tech unless you have a team that can get that first big customer. And that's what the Carat team looks to deliver. So with that said, just as a reference, I mentioned Klaus as an anchor here, but it's not just Klaus. Klaus's right-hand man, Thomas Stapp. They've worked in the Middle East with all the Middle East family offices for many, many years. And now Klaus runs and works with the MBS, and that's the anchor in the NEOM project. But also, again, in terms of context and Rolodex, he's on the board of Morgan Stanley, Citibank, HP, among others. Just to give you some idea, scope and scale, Bayer, I think it's Turner Construction. And that, along with working with 4 different presidents over time as an advisor, really gives this group access to any type of C-suite that we need that might be helpful for a certain tech venture to get that first customer and to get the second customer. So, but beyond that, the rest of the team has very, very significant experience. Lars Oppenson. I'm going to reverse. Give me one before I give everybody a think. Very good. So just to quickly go through the rest of the team, because they're not slighted in any manner. Lars ran a $1 billion fund here in Texas with Jabil Circuit, and they produced material value over their tenure. Peter Redford is one of the older venture guys in the Valley. He was with Band of Angels on the investment side, and as well as did multiple startups backed by Intel and Sierra Ventures. And we have our team in California with me, Bobby Reiki, who is both an operator and has done as a family of venture capitalists himself. And Drew Anderson is another team member who I'll go into a little bit deeper later on, really takes a hands-on approach. He has about 100 engineers underneath him to deliver value for our portfolio companies. So it's quite a team, and going to jump to the next page. I'll just show you the rest of the team members at a partner strategic advisor level. It's a pretty deep bench across the board. And so what are we looking for at Carat? We're really in a position to, as Elon Musk said, there's about a $10 trillion sustainable infrastructure spend coming up. And I tie that into the NEOM project, right? Is a $1 trillion budget itself with the same objective. So there's some big spends coming up. I think the guys in the last panel with their repurposing of some of the B-class projects into smart cities, this is part of our mission. It's not just to come up with a new tech that will enable that, but it's also some of the tech that will basically make that happen in ways that aren't so obvious and do some of the innovations which aren't there today, right? Those deep tech innovations are tough, and I can tell you right now, it's easy to say, I love to buy tech, it's cheap, we'll have a good cycle in this fund, but to do deep tech and get it done, right? That's the critical thing, and get it really done is something that we're all blown away by a guy like Elon Musk, who just keeps getting it done, right? And I think that this is the type of team that's of that caliber to really deliver value for its investors and some of its companies. So where are the spaces that we're looking at? As I mentioned, alternative energy, all the factors that you would guess: energy storage, renewables, hydrogen, recycling, industrial materials, but also the other things that are happening on top of this is the smarts in the smart city. So there's a lot of software that goes on top of doing not just EV, but EV automation. If you look at this, whether it's driving an automated car or setting up that factory that's robotics driven, there's a lot of software on top of that layer as well. So this team has an expertise, of course, in manufacturing and some of these base technologies, which we would consider deep tech. But now there's almost everything. There's a cloud touching it. There's some AI touching it, and it has to be secure, right? So that's that equipment and cloud package, I think, is part of our future, even in some of the, we'll call it the B property environment. They'll all have very sophisticated software, and that's our mission, is to enable both sides of that. Where do we kind of play a big role for the startups? It's in the bottom. You can see we'll play from seed plus. And what seed plus means is you get a lot of these many companies start, 70% of them are failing, and they're stuck in the mud, right? How do you get them unstuck? And that is what we do best. We'll come in with a bridge. We'll lead the A round, and we'll also get them their first customer, and not just any customer. We'll get them a material first customer. So that's our mission for our companies is a capitalization mission. The benefit on the other side is the corporate venture capital groups do not like to lead their deals, right? They really like to follow. So they look to a group like ours that can do the diligence and the structuring of the investment, and that combination makes them a winner and it makes the startup a winner. So that's kind of our value add in terms of where do we sit, and we have the scale to do it at $350 million for our $2 to $15 million bite size. We can help them through to the B round. And investment thesis, as I have kind of already described, we do and lead these deals both at a bridge A and B level. But probably most unique is that we drive value, right? You can see this team is quite active and has a deep operational bench. And that value is something that, as a guy who's been in Silicon Valley now for 25 years, you would say, hey, we all drive great value. I'm a board member. I do this and I do that. I'm a finance guy. And per se, I've done tech investing for 25 years too. So I'm quite savvy at tech. But running and building a product from a ground stage up at a patent level through is and having a team who's done it, and then a team of 100 engineers behind them is above and beyond what you'll see even at Kleiner Perkins or Sequoia. They just don't have that type of fabric, and this team will. So some of the relationships I mentioned, our deals we backed and matched by BMW, for example, and Siemens. We're anchored out of MBS. That's a minimum 200 million. So that's kind of the mix of our 300. We're wrapping up our $50 million piece. We have about 50 million to go out of that. And then we'll be fully funded and rolling in terms of capitalization. And we have relationships. These are front and center, whether it's Elon Musk at Tesla, Apple, J&J, Siemens. Most of our guys are somewhere in the C-suite or on the board of these companies. And I would say this is a team that, while this is the first fund of this team, they've invested together, as you can see, for about $500 million. They've had 20 plus exits, capital raised in the public markets. Not to lean too much on Klaus, because the team's important here too. But in terms of the capital markets, they've raised about $7 billion in the public markets. As founders, they've raised $600 million in total as a group. And basically, just to show you the appetite, we deal with a lot of private things here and a lot of venture and a lot of private equity and a lot of real estate. But in the public markets, we all knew the SPAC environment was tough. It really did melt away. Klaus, when he raised his SPAC, which was called Constellation, at the bottom of the SPAC market, it was still 3 times oversubscribed. And it's good to have some, judge, what does the market think of this team? And it was really Klaus and Thomas who did that. So I think there's going to be an exciting time ahead for this group. And as I mentioned, they have a lot of experience together, but more so, they're really focused on a lot of exits at premiums and getting those customers for their portfolio companies and driving that success, which is the toughest thing to get. What's your 0 to 1 and who's your big anchor customer to use that product? And I'll just leave it with um, the last piece of this equation, which is Drew Anderson runs this piece, but we also bring a team of 100 engineers to bear in a literal product sense. So it's not just, hey, who's your first customer, per se, which doesn't hurt to say it's BMW or it's DARPA or it's somebody special of meaning, right? We can help and do help, and all the team members have developed over 100 startups amongst them, and can help drive product and help optimize product. And I'm going to say we'll maybe put an umbrella called operational excellence, which a lot of these firms, every little firm, they're always struggling to make ends meet, but they're also short on some piece of the staff somewhere at all times. And then if they had it, then somebody leaves if they don't have it. So that operational excellence from a product design level, from a patent level, is what this team kind of brings to bear. That's a little bit different. And then I'll leave you my last slide, just to if you're wondering, what does Chat GPT define as a green, sustainable civilization? So here's Chat GPT's answer. I just pulled it up before I came up here, and it's all the things you would expect, but it's interesting to read. Hey, what does the computer say? But I can tell you, renewable energy sources, sustainable agriculture, forestry practices, waste reduction, recycle, all the things which you would expect. But one of the things that ChatGPT doesn't do and doesn't think about, but we think a lot about, is sustainability is the mission, but you have to have sustainable businesses that make money and survive to do a 5-year, 10-year mission, right? So we say you have to be a sustainable business if you're going to really go after sustainability, and that is our mission. So with that said, if this might be of interest to anybody, we're here wrapping up our 350 and our close. We'd love to hear from you, and of course answer any questions you might have. We'll be here the rest of the day and into dinner and tomorrow. Yeah, so the average size for us, the bite size will be between 2 and 15 million, and so we'll pick up, as I said, that seed, post-seed raise where somebody might have the product going, we're a product stage funder. We'll wrap that up and get them that first customer. So really get them unstuck and rolling. We'll be the lead, and then we'll co-it on the B, C, right? So we'll lead the seed class and the A. So no, we'll try to take a 20-25% plus have big role in that company. So we'll be active. We'll be active at a board level, and we'll be active at our operating level. Absolutely. So our mission is that we will look to have co-investment from our strategics. So, for example, we have kind of an auto commit, for example, from BMW in the transport space and the energy space, and we'll really try to get a corporate venture capital to partner with us as a first customer, but also an investor. And then for family offices who might want to co-invest in addition to the fund, certainly that would be open.
Is this more of a smart cities, or is it more of a? I mean, like, give me an example of a sustainable project or venture.
Sure. I mean, just to make it in a literal sense, there's some of the things that have come out of the NEOM project that the guys back before the fund. They've done about 8 projects aligned with that. They did an eVTOL solution or company. They're doing basically desal project, but these are the things that are obvious for the desert building, right, sitting on the edge of the water. And there's an EV car company in this equation, which is coming up, more of a 3-wheel, 2-wheel EV company called California Motor Works. That's a $30 million deal that we'll be participating in. There's a company that I brought to them originally to meet them called Pebble. They do the EV charging overlay, but they have a retail overlay tied to charging. It was compelling because of an 80% gross margin. So that was interesting. So those are the types of projects. It's both transportation, a lot of things that might fuel the smart cities. For example, all the tech underneath these smart cities, from the biggest project in the world, but also to the smart cities of the world. So that last panel was right on, and hopefully we'll be giving a lot of their tech.